Coming up next on Access TV is Fan to Fan, a sports interview show where we cover the full range of the world of sports. Today we'll be talking with Tommy Harper at the Eastern Mass Senior Softball League's annual banquet in Natick. It's going to be fun and hard-hitting. Tommy might even steal your attention. Welcome to Fan, a sports interview show covering the wide world of sports. I'm Dave Hornfischer. Today, we are with the Eastern Mass Senior Softball League at their 25th annual banquet. Our guest today is Red Sox Hall of Famer Tommy Harper. But before we get to Tommy, let's chat with the outgoing league commissioner, Rob Mitchell, to learn a little more about this league. Rob, this looks like a pretty good crowd today.
It is. I don't know the numbers, but this room holds a couple hundred people, and I think we'll fill it. It's a very good turnout, and that's out of 400 people in the league. So half the people will be here.
Really? So give me the quick overview of the EMass Senior Softball League.
You mean as far as numbers go, how many people are in the league? As I said, there are 400 people. They're all over age 50. Most of them, frankly, are over age 60. I don't remember what our average age is, but I think it's well up into the 60s. We've got about 33 teams that play in 5 different divisions based on skill level and age. We have one division for people over age 65, and there are over 100 people that play in that division. And just as with the other numbers, most of them are in their 70s, and a lot of guys in their 80s playing in that division.
Including me. I was a rookie at age 70. Rob, the games are played in...
Well, most of the games are played in Wayland and Framingham. We use a couple of different fields in those towns. We do use a field in Medfield as well, but it's all in the Metro West area. But that doesn't mean that that's where all our players are from. We have players from the South Shore and the North Shore and out Worcester Way who come to our games, who play in our games. I don't remember how many towns we represent, but I think it's something close to 100 towns that our players come from.
It really is a true EMass league. This year you're celebrating a special anniversary.
Yeah, this is the 25th year of EMass, and for me the highlight off the field was we went to a game at Fenway Park, a Red Sox game, and we invited 4 or 5 of the original founders of EMass who are still playing in the league. All of them are in their 80s now. And we sat in a special section at Fenway Park, and at one point in the 2nd or 3rd inning, there was a welcoming announcement posted on the Jumbotron out in center field with welcoming these guys to Fenway Park.
And you play in the summer and the winter, and I understand even some of the guys, well, including me, actually went to Cuba.
Yes, I have also been to Cuba for about 10 or 11, 12 years now. EMass has sent a team, or sometimes more than one team, to play a series of games. It lasts for a whole week in Cuba against a team of Cubans who are also our age, and so the games are usually pretty competitive.
Well, thank you very much, Rob. I understand you're looking to get more players even.
Yes, we're always on the lookout for more players. One thing is because of our age, every year a few players or several players drop out because they've just kind of aged out of our league. So we're always looking for both younger guys, meaning younger guys in their 50s, but we also welcome 70-year-old rookies or 80-year-old rookies. As long as they have a certain amount of skill, you have to be able to play soft.
Well, I understand Tommy Harper is a guy that we've got to speak today. Maybe he'll play.
Yeah, he is. Tommy Harper, according to his biography information, is 79 years old, so he's eligible, and he's probably far better than most of our 50-year-olds still.
Well, we're going to give him an application.
Well, hope he responds.
Okay, thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Tommy Harper.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. May I call you Tommy? That would sound better. But you were nominated. You were nominated by a bunch of people to be a new member of the EMass Senior Softball League because I understand you've had a birthday that got you past the age of 60.
I'm 79.
You qualify. Okay, well, the application had with it a bio that I just need to review briefly. It said that you played baseball for 15 years in the MLB league. I think that's a league we probably know.
Major League Baseball.
Yeah, okay. You had over 6,000 at-bats, 1,600 hits, over 1,600, 408 stolen bases, including 73 in one season, and 54 in another with the Boston Red Sox, of all people. I see you played on 7 different franchises, starting with an 8-year stint in Cincinnati, where you shared the outfield with Vada Pinson and Frank Robinson. Pete Rose, I guess, was a teammate there as well. You had 3 years with the Red Sox, 1972, 73, and 74. You had 31 home runs with the 1970 Milwaukee Brewers. You were an all-star that year. You came in 6th for most valuable player. And in addition to these numbers, one of the oddities that I discovered was that you were the first player to bat for the expansion Seattle Pilots in 1969. And then when the team went bankrupt and they moved the franchise to Milwaukee, you were the first player to bat in Milwaukee. You've had coaching experience for several clubs, including the Sox, and were named to the Red Sox Hall of Fame in 2010. That's all very impressive, but did I miss anything?
Oh, you got it all, Dave. Just like I wrote it.
Just like you wrote it. Well said. Anyway, you know, that's all very impressive, but I do have to ask, have you ever played softball?
Yes. When I was a kid growing up, all we did was play softball. And like today, I can feel the camaraderie here in this room that softball, baseball keeps people young and happy and meeting friends, making friends with people. And it's just a great way to continue the game you love, you know, because I started off like that and my friends started off that way. And I played, since childhood, I played with Willie Stargell. He was one of my childhood friends, played with the Pirates and Hall of Famer. We went to school together from grammar school all through high school and a year of college at Santa Rosa Junior College. And also played with Kurt Moten, who played for the Baltimore Orioles. And we grew up together, and that's all we did was play softball because we didn't have the equipment to play what we called in those days hardball, you know. And we didn't have the equipment, but everybody could play softball, and that's what we did. And the only thing, Dave, and like someone mentioned fast pitch, well, fast pitch is one thing because the ball comes in pretty straight, stays on the line. Now, slow pitch, that's what we played. Everybody lobbed the ball, and it gets you in bad habits. I mean, so the ball, by the time it gets to the plate, you can develop an uppercut type swing because the ball is coming in the downward plane, and you get an uppercut swing. And then if you're going to play pro ball, you've got to get out of that uppercut swing. Unless you're going to play today, you can strike out 150 times.
Well, let's go back to days of yore when all of us were young boys too, the 1960s. After less than 3 years in the minors and starting at age 19, you were called up to the Reds at the end of the '62 season. You played 6 games. Do you have any memories from that first season, your first at bat?
My first base hit was off of Art Mahaffey. I called it a line drive to right field, but it's actually a check swing blooper. But it all counts. And when I was 19 and I played the 6 games at Cincy, and everybody calls it Cincy because most guys like myself, we couldn't spell Cincinnati. So by the time I got home, I told my mom, I said, geez, by the time I got to learn how to spell the word Cincinnati, she said, what happened? I said, now I've got to learn how to spell Chattanooga, Tennessee, because that's where they optioned me to.
But then you got back the next year, you were in the majors for 15 or 16 years. Your last year was with the Baltimore Orioles. Do you have any memories of that? I think you had a pretty good last game, as I've researched.
I can't remember the last game, Dave, but really, I think I got 2 hits, 2 for 5. I think.
3 hits, I read.
3 for 5.
Yes, it was, okay.
So it helped my 257 average.
I was going to leave the math to these guys. I just won that. Well, you were traded about 6 or 7 times. You moved to an expansion team. What was the toughest trade? Being traded can't be easy anyway. But
Well, the first trade is pretty tough, and after that, it's old hat. They just call you up and tell you you're going to Cincinnati or you just traded to Cleveland. Okay, that's fine, because we didn't have any say-so in those days. There was I played my whole career under what they call the reserve clause. Once you sign with a team, they own you until they traded you or release you. And we had no say-so. So after the first time, you get used to it. It's just business, that they tell you you're going to go, and you go.
then finally in 1972, you got traded to the Red Sox in what was a 10-player trade. It included Billy Conigliaro, Jim Lonberg, and George Scott leaving Boston. And coming to Boston were you, along with pitcher Marty Patton, who sadly passed away this year, I noticed. But what was it like coming to Boston for the first time?
Well, we had another player besides me and Marty Patton that came over. His name was Pat Scrabble, and he quit before he even reported to the Red Sox. So that left. So that only left Marty Patton and me, and we traded Jim Lonborg, the Conigliaro, Billy Conigliaro, a whole bunch of players, George Scott, and so Marty was a pitcher, so he only pitched 4 days every four days, so he's in the dugout all the time. So every time the fans if we were losing a game, they took it out on me. Hey, Harper, we want George Scott back. We want Lonborg back, because I was the only guy that could scream at because I was playing every day. So, it was like coming to Boston. When I first got here, I played a little bit in Boston when I got traded to Cleveland, but I didn't play on a regular basis with the Cleveland team. But the first thing I noticed was that fence, the wall. It was awfully close, but then when I was traded, I hit pretty well with the Red Sox, because one thing as a right-handed hitter with the Red Sox, they're going to pitch you away. I was pretty much a dead pull hitter until I was talking to you before, Dave. The 31 home runs came after I was traded to the Seattle Pilots, and then from Cleveland I went to the Seattle Pilots, and then to the Red Sox. And I was telling Dave, what happened? How did you hit 31 home runs? It was just like in 69 with the Seattle Pilots. I went from maybe 20, 30 stolen bases a year all the way to 73 with the Pilots. And so the thing about it is, I could have stolen the bases, but I just didn't feel like I stole to win the game and not for the stats. But that year, they didn't have any players, so the manager came to me. He says, Tommy, I want you to steal anytime you want to. I said, even when we're behind? He says, yeah. He said, anytime you want to go. So I went up. So when I got to Milwaukee, I hit 269, or rather not, I didn't hit 269. I can't remember what I hit for Seattle, but it wasn't much, 230 something. But I was learning things because I hadn't played regularly for quite a while. So what happened is I started learning how to hit. I got out of the uppercut, I didn't swing at bad pitches, and pretty soon I was getting the hang of it. I didn't hit much, but in 1970 I put it all together. I went home, started thinking about it and everything. So this is the story that a lot of people don't understand, that even in your big leagues, even when you're a player and you're playing 5, 6 years, you're still learning things. And so it all came together for me in 1970, and I hit 31 home runs, and I don't know what the stats were, but I was the first I was the first infielder to hit 30 home runs and steal 30 bases in the same season. First infielder in the history of the game.
Yeah, wow. But then on the 1972 Red Sox, after a team that made this huge trade and all that, despite all of that, you guys almost won the pennant.
We did, but in, what was that, 1972, if the audience remembers, the Red Sox, well, there was a work stoppage in 1972 where spring training, we went to spring training, but we didn't open the season right off because of work stoppage. So everybody knew the rules. They were going to start the season, once the strike was over, they were going to start the season, and whatever games you missed, they were not going to make up. So Detroit, we were scheduled to play one more game than Detroit, but it was wiped out by the strike. So it ended up, when we played Detroit in the 3-game series at the end of the season, that was for the pennant. If Detroit beat us 2 out of 3, which they did, they win the pennant. If we win 2 out of 3 or sweep, Boston wins the pennant. And so that's how it ended up. We weren't allowed to play to make up that game. If we had made up the game, we would ended up in a tie with Detroit. But we knew the rules, and so we had the pitching set up with Tion. Tion pitched the first game, and we just didn't score. And I'm sure some of you Red Sox fans, I mean, maybe you remember that I led off the first inning with a base hit, and then we had Aparicio up next. He gets a base hit. We had men on first and second, and Yaz comes up and he hits a fly ball way back in Detroit, way over Mickey Stanley's head, and Stanley's going back looking, and the ball bounces in. So I score easily, so I pick up the bat at home plate, throw it away, and I'm looking for Aparicio, because the ball's 400 some feet out there. And I'm looking for Aparicio, and there he is, sprawled between third and home. He fell, he tripped and fell. And Yaz is running around second. Yaz goes to third. They tag Aparicio out, and they get Yaz in a rundown.
Double play.
Double play, we scored the 1 run, and that's what we got beat by.
Well, that was quite a lineup you had. You started, you were the leadoff batter, and you played center field that year, I believe. And then Aparicio was second, and then Yaz, I mean, you were followed by two Hall of Famers, Reggie Smith, Rico Petrocelli. Carlton Fisk, I think, was a youngster on the team.
Yes.
As the catcher. And you had Louis Tion and Bill Lee. You must have a Bill Lee story. Maybe 1,000 of them.
None that I can tell you.
I'll let you off the hook.
He was a flake. I mean, but I used to ride the ballpark. He lived right next to me in a condo in Sharon, Mass. Well, actually, it was Stoughton, Mass. And I used to ride in the ballpark. And Bill was he's from USC. He went to USC, and he's still doing it. I mean, he still plays. He's like Bill Lee will go out and play with everybody and anybody who wants to play. He was just that kind of a guy. You know, and he didn't take things too seriously out there, but he could pitch. And I used to kid him about it. I said, Billy, you're the only guy can give up 14 hits and pitch a shutout. And every time he get men on base, he double play. You know, so, yeah, I mean, Aparicio, like today, I was just thinking, Aparicio hit second and I hit leadoff. And you see these guys today, you know, they're looking, people ask me all the time, they look at TV and they say, well, what is the catcher looking in the dugout for? Why is he looking in the dugout? Is the manager calling pitches? No, he's not calling pitches. He's calling a running game. They tell the pitcher when to throw over, you know, and that kind of thing. And they talk about the Houston Astros stealing signs and all this. Well, everybody would look at the third base coach when Aparicio and I was leading off, he was hitting second, and he loved to hit and run, and we do it all the time. And they were looking at the third base coach trying to find the signs. The problem is, we weren't getting the signs from the third base coach. Aparicio and I were giving the signs to each other. And so I'm wondering, these guys today, they're talking about stealing signs and all of this. It doesn't mean it. Guys pulling out things out of their pocket, looking at them about the outfield players. I said, come on, man, please. When I first started out, Frank Robinson, the late Frank Robinson, told me, Tommy, I'm going to move you around the first time out around the league. I'll move you. He knew the hitters. He said, after the first time around, you're on your own. In other words, you got to learn the hitters. You face the same people all the time. When I was with the hitting coach with the Expos, you guys just come to me all the time and say, well, what's this guy throw, Harper? A big book, you know. I said, you just faced a guy 2 days ago on the road, you know. And that's the kind of thing that goes on nowadays where if you don't know how to hit CC Sabathia, he's going to retire. How many years has he been in the game? And you need a book to tell you what he's going to throw? Or Mariano Rivera, he's going to cut the ball in? I haven't played since 1976, and I can tell you that right now some of the tendencies of the players just by watching. And so that's the basic thing about my career in baseball is just we were just in tune more to the game and the fundamentals of the game, and everything wasn't given to us. We had to learn a lot of things. And just like I said, I learned how to hit. I learned how to hit the breaking ball, and I read Ted Williams' book. And Ted Williams, you can read all the hitting books, and Ted Williams' book still applies. These guys think they're innovators of the game. All you got to do is read Ted Williams' book. It was published years ago, and it still applies today.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's just get a couple of specific quick questions. Who were some of the toughest pitchers you had to face? There were probably in two categories: the ones that are in the Hall of Fame and the ones that probably half the people in this room never heard of, but were a little tough to hit. You have any in either category?
I never found a hitter that I thought was easy, a pitcher that was easy to hit. I mean, you just go to the plate with the idea that you've got to get a base hit. And it just flows from there. I never paid much attention to the stats. You're just in tune to getting a base hit. Sometimes you have to move a runner over and things like that, and making contact. And so they were all tough. I mean, we faced a four-man rotation. Now they have five. And when you went to Dodger Stadium on a four-man pitching rotation, you weren't going to miss Koufax. I mean, you're going to face Koufax almost every time. If it wasn't Koufax, it's going to be Drysdale and Padres. So, and St. Louis was the same way. I mean, you pray to miss Bob Gibson.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting at.
No, I mean, he pitched. I don't think I've ever played at a series that Gibson didn't pitch. I couldn't hit him and he knew it.
You weren't alone. You weren't alone.
No, he was a tough pitcher to face. I mean, we used to kid about it because Koufax would get you out 0 for 4, but Koufax was a gentleman. You know, he'd just get you out 0 for 4, high fastball, big breaking ball. But Gibson was the same 0 for 4, but it was a dangerous 0 for 4. It was under your chin. You know.
And defensively, you know, the Red Sox have Jackie Bradley in center field, but we think of left field at Fenway as only a few people have played there. You think of Williams, Yaz, Rice, but I understand you played left field in your second season with the Red Sox.
I'm the trivia question. Everybody always says on TV, it continued from Ted to Yaz to Rice. And I go, wait a minute. In 1973, who played left field? And they said, Rice. I said, no, he didn't. It was me.
So what was it like? What's your feeling of standing out there by that wall? It feels intimidating to me when I just take a tour through the park.
It's probably the shortest left field of Major League Baseball, but Yaz could play it, and Yaz just told me a few things about it. It still applies today. a lot of the outfielders from the other teams. The ball that goes down in the left field corner, foul ball, it looks like it's going to be foul. That ball always comes back. And a lot of people, when they, first baseman too, the ball always comes back at Fenway. It looks like it's going to be in the stands, but it comes back, and you see a lot of outfielders overrun the ball. They go to the wall and ball back over the head. And Yaz told me, the ball off the wall, always get to the center field side. Get to the center field side, because the ball, if it hits the ground, it's coming towards center field, and you'll be in position to throw. So a lot of times you see the inexperienced outfielder, he's on the other side, and the ball goes to this side, and he has to chase it. That's a double. So the wall is intimidating, but if you play there majority of the time, you get used to it.
Now we're probably running out of time here, time for one or two more maybe, and we'll have some questions from the audience, but yeah, that's rather timely, I guess. Just one thing, your current role is a player development consultant for the Red Sox. What does that entail?
Well, I go mostly Pawtucket. I cover Lowell when they start up, Portland, Maine, and it's a gratifying job to see the young players. And basically, what I do is when I see a player that I don't care what his draft number was or anything like that, they're all players to me. And try to talk to them, especially guys who've been sent down from the big leagues. You pick players out, try to encourage them. I don't do too much on the field things, but just knowing what it feels like to be traded, what it feels like to be sent down to the minors. Jackie Bradley got sent down, and talked to him. I talked to Jacoby Ellsbury when he was there. But basically, I see things, but just trying to help a player to get to the next level. And that might be just talking to him sometimes. And so that's what I do now. It's been gratifying to me when the new ownership took over. I've been working in this capacity since '03, when the new owners took over. And they're just great people. They're just a great organization. They did what they said they were going to do. They were they said they wanted to be big in the community. They are. And they said they would bring a World Series to Boston, and they've done it 4 times.
Well, this is part of the community, having someone like you here today, so we've really appreciated your coming here. And how about a standing ovation for Tommy? Thank you. The Red Sox Hall of Famer.